everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most powerful tools in a writer's toolkit, voice. And nope, I don't mean the sound you make when you talk. I mean the thing that gives your sentences force, clarity, and impact. This isn't just some boring grammar rule, folks. This is about making your writing come alive. So, ready to transform your sentences? Let's dive in.
All right, let's jump right in. Take a look at these two sentences. The window was broken by the boy versus the boy broke the window. They both say the same thing, right? But which one just feels more direct, more powerful? Which one paints a clearer picture in your head? Go on, think about it.
Yeah, it's the second one, for sure. And the reason why is the whole point of what we're talking about today.
And that big idea is called voice. You see, voice tells us who's in the driver's seat of the sentence. Is the subject actually doing the action? Well, that's what we call active voice. Or is the subject just kind of sitting there, having the action done to it? That's passive voice. So, the boy broke the window is active. The boy is doing something. It's punchy, it's clear, it gets right to the point. Okay, so let's start with the absolute foundation, simple statements. Once you really get how to flip these around, I promise everything else we cover is going to click right into place. This is the blueprint. The good news is, switching from active to passive follows a really simple three-step formula. First, you swap. The object of the sentence becomes the new subject. Second, you change. The main verb gets turned into its past participle form. You might know it as the V3 form. And third, you add. The original subject gets tacked onto the end using the little word by.
Let's see it in action, because it makes way more sense that way. In the active sentence, Ram writes a letter, Ram's the subject, and a letter is the object. So, following our steps, a letter becomes the new subject, the verb writes becomes is written, and our original subject, Ram, moves to the end with by Ram. See? Simple as that. And just to prove this works across different tenses, let's try another one. How about they will complete the work? Same deal. The object, the work, slides to the front. Will complete changes to will be completed. And they becomes by them. The logic is exactly the same, no matter the tense.
All right, you've totally got statements down, so let's level up. We're moving on to questions, or as they're officially called, interrogative sentences. The same core ideas we just learned still apply, but there's a fun little twist. So for questions, the object still becomes the new subject. That part doesn't change. But here's the key difference. The helping verb, words like is, was, or will, that little guy moves all the way to the front of the sentence. And of course, don't forget to keep the question mark at the end.
Let's look at this example. Did Ram write this letter? Okay, so the object, this letter, becomes the subject. The verb write becomes written. But notice how that helping verb was jumps right to the beginning? That's what keeps it a question. Was this letter written by Ram? Okay, but here's a curveball. What happens with questions that start with the word who? This is a special case, and it trips a lot of people up, but the fix is actually surprisingly simple once you know the trick.
Think about this classic question, who broke the window? In this case, who is the subject, right? They're the one doing the breaking. Our usual rule of just swapping things around doesn't quite work perfectly here. So what do we do? So what's the secret? It's a neat little substitution. When you've got a question that kicks off with who, you just transform that one little word into a tiny two-word phrase. And that phrase is by whom. That's it. That's the entire secret. You just swap who for by whom at the very beginning of the sentence. So let's put it all together now. Who broke the window becomes by whom was the window broken? See how that works? Who turned into by whom, and the rest of the sentence just followed our normal question rule, with the helping verb was coming right before the new subject, the window. Now for our last big category, imperative sentences. These are your commands, your requests, and all your pieces of advice. These are a little different because the subject, you, is usually just implied, not actually said out loud. Let's break down how to handle them. Imperatives really come in three main flavors. You've got your direct orders or commands, your polite requests, and your helpful advice. Each one has a slightly different pattern when we switch it over to the passive voice. For those direct, straightforward orders, the formula is awesome. You just start the sentence with the word let, then you add the object, and you finish it off with be, plus the verb's past participle. For example, the direct command, open the door, becomes let the door be opened. We start with let, we add our object, the door, and we finish with be opened. It's a really clean, kind of elegant transformation, right? Now, what about the polite stuff like requests and advice? Well, get this, it's even easier. You just start the new sentence with the phrase, you are requested to, or you are advised to. Check this out. If someone says, please help me, the passive form is simply, you are requested to help me. Notice how the main action, help me, stays exactly the same? You just pop that introductory phrase on the front. It really is that easy. Phew, okay, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's bring it all together into one final cheat sheet. Think of these as the most important takeaways that are going to help you use both active and passive voice like a pro in your own writing. All right, let's lock in these critical rules. First, always figure out the tense of the original sentence. That's step one. But the most important rule of all, you can change the voice, but you can never change the fundamental meaning of the sentence. And of course, always use the right helping verb, and remember our special rules for commands. And here it is. This table boils it all down for you. This is your ultimate reference guide. For statements, the object comes first. For questions, the helping verb comes first. And for commands, you start with let. I'm serious, pause here, take a screenshot of this. It is a fantastic tool to have handy. So, we'll end with a challenge for you. Now that you understand the power behind both of these voices, you have a choice. Every single time you write, you can be direct and punchy with the active voice, or you can be more formal and indirect with the passive. So the real question isn't just what your next sentence will say, but how you will choose to say it.